If you're watching this, please subscribe. I woke up in a hospital bed 2 years later. That's what they told me. They said I was found lying on the side of a dirt road, naked, dehydrated, covered in bite marks that no one could identify. I was 400 miles from where I worked, 400 miles from the Magdalen psychiatric facility. But I remember everything, and I wish I didn't. My name is Luciano Reyes. In 1927, I was working the night shift at the Magdalen Asylum just outside San Francisco. I was 35, a registered nurse, hardened by the things I'd seen, the shrieking of the insane, the self-inflicted wounds, the way some patients stared right through you like they were seeing something behind your eyes. But nothing prepared me for what I saw that night. It was 2:30 a.m. I remember because I'd just finished writing a note about a patient running a fever. The halls were dead silent, the kind of silence that's too quiet. My co-workers had gone for their usual break in the staff kitchen, leaving me alone at the front desk. The only sound was the ticking of the old wall clock behind me. Then I heard something, a faint patter in the hallway to my right. At first, I thought it was a patient who had slipped past the locked doors. I stood up quickly, heart jumping into my throat. But what I saw wasn't human, not really. It was low to the ground, dark and hunched. It scurried instead of walked. My breath caught in my chest. I only caught a glimpse, but it was enough. It didn't look like a person, and it didn't move like one either. I should have called for help, should have run to the others, but something kept me frozen. Curiosity? Stupidity? I don't know. Instead, I grabbed the flashlight from my drawer and stepped into the dark hallway. The lights were off to avoid disturbing the patients. I didn't dare flip the switch. Some of them got violent when startled. I depended entirely on the narrow beam of my flashlight. The corridor felt longer than usual. Every step made the floor creak like it was warning me. The walls were lined with closed doors, rooms full of people too broken to be trusted. Yet somehow I felt like I was the one trespassing. Then I heard it, a sound that would haunt me forever. Scratch, tap, scratch, tap, tap. Something was dragging its fingers, or claws, along the metal handrails. The sound echoed, bouncing from wall to wall, like it came from everywhere at once. I swept the flashlight across the walls. Nothing. I told myself again to turn back, but I kept moving. Stupid. So stupid. When I reached the end of the corridor, the scratching stopped. I paused. My flashlight flickered. Then I felt it. Hot breath. Right against the back of my legs. I froze. My body didn't move, but every nerve screamed. Something was down there with me. I couldn't even scream. I tried, but nothing came out. Then suddenly, thwack. I was on the floor. My stomach slammed the tiles. My head hit the cold ground. My limbs wouldn't respond. I was paralyzed, but I was conscious, aware, trapped in my own body. I heard the footsteps behind me, heavy, uneven, shuffling, and then the scratching again. Scratch, scratch, tap, this time on the tile next to my head. I could only move my eyes. I strained them to the corner, trying to see what it was. A shadow, thick, black, and wrong. It didn't walk like a man. It didn't breathe like one either. The next moment, I was yanked like a rag doll across the floor. I couldn't scream. I couldn't fight. The thing dragged me fast down the corridor. My ribs scraped the tile. My shoulder hit a door frame, and I saw white. Then we reached the stairwell, the basement stairs. No one ever went down there, not since the fire in 1901. The doors had been bolted shut for decades, but somehow they were open. I was dragged down, step by step, each one slamming my bones like hammers. Pain shot through my hips, my spine, my skull. Still, not a sound came out of me. only silent tears. The air grew thick, heavy. It smelled of rot, metal, and something else. Something old, like the inside of a grave. We hit the basement floor. My body crumpled. My nose was bleeding. My lips were cracked. And then the scratching returned. But this time it wasn't just one. It was many, all around me, crawling, whispering. The sound of nails on stone. Hundreds of them. I braced for death. But instead, they covered me. I don't know how long they swarmed over me. It felt like forever. Tiny hands, claws, fingers, nails. I couldn't tell. Hundreds of them crawling on me, tapping, scratching, pressing into my skin like pins. They were whispering, no, clicking, like insects with voices. I wanted to scream, to move, to die. But I couldn't. Then just as suddenly as they came, they vanished. Silence fell. The air around me stank. Thick and sour like rotting milk mixed with copper. Then I heard her, a voice, software feminine, singing, humming something distant and familiar. Nakuruan, I couldn't place the tune, but it made every hair on my body stand on end. And just like that, everything stopped. The things scattered like leaves in the wind. The air shifted. Something bigger entered the room. Something alive. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it. Its weight pressing on the air. Its scent hitting me like a sledgehammer. If death had a smell, this was it. Putrid. Old. Like blood left to boil in the sun. I felt something grab me again, this time with large, strong hands. They were too long. Fingers that wrapped halfway around my thigh with a single grip. It lifted me like I weighed nothing and carried me deeper into the basement. I was limp, broken, still unable to speak, still unable to fight, but every cell in my body screamed no. It dropped me somewhere cold and wet. The floor squished beneath me, not like concrete, more like damp, spongy flesh. I gagged. The air was thick with decay. The walls dripped something viscous. I tried not to breathe through my nose, but the smell still seeped in. A stench so vile it made my stomach twist. I thought it was over, but it wasn't. The thing didn't leave. It pressed its body against mine. It didn't speak. It didn't make a sound. Just leaned into me until my ribs screamed and my lungs begged for air. It felt like a punishment, a slow, crushing punishment. My skin burned. I don't know what it was doing, but every inch of me felt like it was being pierced by tiny hot needles. I passed out. When I came to, I wasn't in the basement anymore. I was in the woods, lying in a bed of dead leaves, half naked, covered in mud and bruises. My lips were cracked, my skin torn in strange patterns like bite marks, but nothing human, nothing animal. The sky above me was orange with dawn. I didn't know how I got there. I didn't know where I was. My limbs were numb. My eyes were blurry. My body felt like it had been hollowed out and stuffed with glass. Then I heard it again, a dragging sound behind me. Slow, heavy, wet. I turned my eyes. I didn't want to, but I did, and I saw it. A man half dead, his body scraped raw, ribs showing through torn skin. He was being pulled by something large and black. The thing, that same humanoid beast from the asylum. It walked like a person, but its back was hunched, its arms too long, its legs bent backwards. It was covered in coarse, wet hair. It wore strips of cloth, rags or skin. I couldn't tell. It didn't see me, or maybe it didn't care. It dragged the man a few feet away, dropped him like meat, then knelt beside him. I should have looked away. I should have closed my eyes. But I watched. The man, he was still breathing, barely. His chest rose in shallow bursts. His eyes were open, filled with a terror I knew too well. And then the thing tore him apart. Not with precision, Not like a hunter, like an animal. It ripped his shirt off, then dug its fingers into his stomach. The sound. It was like wet towels being torn apart. Blood poured out of him. His screams didn't even reach my ears before they were silenced by his own blood filling his throat. The creature ate him. Chunks of raw flesh disappeared into its mouth. It didn't chew, just swallowed. I watched it feast until the man was nothing but twitching limbs and shredded muscle. Then it stopped. It stood, turned slightly, enough for me to see the side of its face. It had no eyes, just skin. Its mouth hung low and wide, filled with teeth like shards of broken glass. But it didn't look at me. It disappeared into the woods, and I was left alone, with the half-eaten corpse, with the silence and the smell. I lay there shaking, numb. I thought I died. I thought maybe I was in hell. But eventually the pain returned, and with it, my body. I crawled inch by inch. First my fingers moved, then my elbows, then my knees. I forced myself to stand. I was dizzy, weak, but I was alive. I walked in the direction opposite of where it went. I didn't think. I just moved. The woods started to change. The trees thinned out. The air got cold, then freezing. I could feel the sun rising behind me. I prayed someone would find me before it came back. That's the last thing I remember. I ran until I collapsed. Then, nothing. When I opened my eyes again, I was in a hospital bed. Clean sheets, beeping machines, a nurse checking my vitals. 2 years had passed. 2 years. The doctors said I was found lying by the roadside, unconscious, covered in wounds they couldn't explain. My body was half-starved, dehydrated, and riddled with tiny, precise bite marks. They didn't match any known animal or human. They said it was a miracle I was alive. But I wasn't the same person. Something came back with me. Something I couldn't shake. At first I didn't speak, not because I couldn't, because I was afraid. Afraid that if I said the words aloud, it would come for me again. That it was waiting just beyond the wall, behind the curtain, under the bed. I told the police, the doctors, the board. I told them about the scratching in the halls of Magdalen, about the thing that dragged me into the basement, about the basement itself, how it wasn't made of concrete, but something else, something alive. I told them about the woods, the man being eaten, the creature that never looked at me. They didn't believe a word. The official report said I suffered a dissociative fugue brought on by occupational trauma. They blamed the long hours, the exposure to violent patients, the isolation. Said I wandered off in a psychotic break and was lucky to survive the elements. But Magdalen was never the same again. 2 months after I came out of the coma, I returned there. I needed answers, needed to see it again, to prove to myself that it all really happened. But when I arrived, the entire asylum was abandoned, shut down. They said it happened just 6 months after I disappeared. Staff started reporting strange things, patients screaming at night, drawing twisted figures on their walls. One nurse tried to gouge her own eyes out. 2 others vanished. Then one day, a fire broke out in the lower wing. No one knows how it started, but what was left was sealed off permanently by the city. All files, all records, gone. I stood in front of that building, breathing in the stale air, staring at the windows like they might blink. That was when I started to smell it again, faint, but there, that same rot, that same decay, the scent of whatever touched me in the dark. It's followed me ever since. Some nights I wake up to the sound of tapping at my window. Other nights I hear it inside the walls. Once I found black hair in my sink. I live alone. I moved 4 times in the last year. Nothing helps. And then there's the dreams. Dreams of a woman's voice humming in the dark. Dreams of being pinned down by something with no eyes and too many teeth. Dreams of a hallway that never ends and a light that never turns on. Of a door at the end, one I'm afraid to open. But the worst part? The worst part is that I'm starting to understand it. I can't explain it well. It's like pieces of something are inside me now. Ideas, shapes, maps. I draw them in my sleep. I wake to symbols on my arms I never remember writing. Sometimes I look in the mirror, and for just a second, I don't recognize my own face. And just last week, I saw something written across my bathroom mirror in steam. I hadn't taken a shower. I hadn't boiled water. The room was cold. It said, "You were spared." Why? Why me? I don't have an answer, but I think I was meant to come back, to tell people, to warn them. There's something beneath places like Magdalen, old places, forgotten places, things we buried and sealed, places where the walls still breathe if you press your ear to them. You may not believe me, most don't, but when you're walking down a dark hallway alone and you hear a scratching sound behind you, don't look, don't speak, and whatever you do, don't follow it, because it remembers you too, and it's hungry again. For more scary horror stories, please subscribe.